Welcome to the new Cyber Frontier, bringing you the latest news on the local Colorado economy and initiatives that focus on the development of cybersecurity economics. You don't have to be a computer or cybersecurity expert to get plugged in. Your host, Chris Gorog, brings it straightforward, asks the tough questions, and brings the cyber world to a level of understanding for everyone. Chris is personable and opens up with our guests on issues we all would like to see addressed. You can find us on the web at www.newcyberfrontier.com. Now join our host as he introduces the topic for today's new Cyber Frontier.
We are excited to begin coverage of the cybersecurity efforts in the state of Colorado and be your information source for all things cyber. This first episode is a collage of what you can expect to hear as the series develops. We're thankful to our sponsors, Cyber Resilience Institute, Veracity Security Intelligence, Logic Central Online, and the Internet Broadcasting Network for making this show possible. Now here's a list of the collage of guests that you can expect to hear as our podcast continues. I hope you enjoy. Today's guest needs no introduction. We have the governor of the great state of Colorado, John Hickenlooper. John, thanks for joining today.
Well, thanks for having me. If you come from a business perspective, as you grow a business, you're always looking for what assets you have that maybe aren't being fully utilized. Mm-hmm. How can you get more benefit? And I was aware that we had a strong cybersecurity base down in Colorado Springs. I didn't realize how strong it was. I didn't realize that SpaceCom had such significant responsibility for cybersecurity in the military. And that because of that, we had over 80 private cybersecurity companies in just the Colorado Springs area alone.
So welcome today. We have with us a special guest. We are at the National Renewable Energy Laboratory in Golden, Colorado, and we have Irfan Ibrahim, and he is the Center Director for Cyber, Physical Security, and Resilience here at NREL. So welcome today, Irfan.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm doing just fine.
What kind of advice would you give the leadership organizing the Colorado effort? We have the chance to go from the ground up. You've been involved with the Electrical Power Research Institute, NIST, SGIP. What advice would you give them to get this effort started?
The first advice I would give them is to calm down and relax and not get too hyper about the current situation. Yes, our infrastructure is vulnerable. So yes, the situation is dire primarily because we were too good at it. We threw too much technology on it. But it doesn't mean we have to get hyper and go irrational and just waste a lot of money and throw it at stuff without solving the problem. We need to use a systems engineering approach to solving this problem.
We'll be right back with the rest of today's show right after these brief messages from our sponsors. Cyber Resilience Institute helps build strong cyber communities designed to prevent members from attack. Like building a neighborhood watch, it takes coordination and a sharing community to protect our identities and valuables in the virtual world. Typically, we hear that organizations know they need to do something to protect their cyber assets, but don't know where to begin. Let Cyber Resilience Institute help your community create an action plan. Cyber Resilience Institute will build your community or business marketplace so that it is designed to support a collective cyber defense. Contact them for more information at cyberresilienceinstitute.org.
We have General Ed Anderson, who is the interim executive director of the Colorado Cybersecurity Effort, the NCIC, so National Cyber Intelligence Center.
Right.
Ed, welcome today.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here. And just in our discussion here in the last few minutes, you can just get enthusiastic about it.
Yeah.
You can get excited about it, and that's what you'd like to think you're going to convey to the millennials and anybody else that's in the situation.
So welcome today. We are going to talk a little bit about identity theft. and we have a guest on who, at first we were talking about not releasing his name, but he said we're okay there. But we have Wallace Pond, who has been, is wallacekpond.com. He has been the CEO of several higher education companies, including Career Education Corporation, which is Colorado Technical University's parent company.
Yeah, and I was actually president and CEO of the Colorado Technical University system, not Career Education Corporation. And also I've been the president and CEO of the University of St. Augustine for health sciences. I also ran a company in the Caribbean. Spent 3 years in Paradise, overseeing, bringing together actually 4 different college systems, 3 in the Caribbean and 1 in Florida, under one administrative roof. That was a really fun gig for 3 years. I've also been with Laureate Education that was the corporate parent for University of St. Augustine. But the thing we're talking about today,
Yes.
Actually, I'm one of the many, many millions of unlucky victims of identity theft. And the last time we got together and were chatting, we agreed that this might be helpful for your audience in terms of the podcast, talking about sort of my experience and what people can learn from that. My identity's already been stolen.
So we're going into your experience identity theft, and what we have here is a case of spear phishing, where they're going after someone that is well circulated, that they can get information on. And tell us about how it all started.
Yeah, so I pay for a service that I highly recommend, which, by the way, does not protect you from identity theft, but it gives you a warning if something is happening.
On with me today, I have Kathy Bowe, the founder and CEO of BowCore.
I was in a happy place there, and as I've grown my career, I have had a lot more experience working with the government, and now more than ever, I see the government reaching out to industry. I've never seen it before, and they want to know. They want to know what my ideas are. They want to know what your ideas are. They're listening. They use the term scouting for ideas. They're reaching out, so it's a perfect time for businesses.
Welcome to today's podcast. Today I have a guest on with me, Roger Hill, who is the CTO of Veracity and has spent a lot of time working with some very reputable companies as a global cybersecurity design technologist for Siemens Corporation, one of the largest corporations in the world when it comes to industrial controllers. Tell us about Veracity. Tell us what you do. Give us your background. We kind of just released that you got your phase of funding here, first round, yes. And moving forward. Tell us about the company, though.
Yeah, so Veracity Security Intelligence, I've been with them for about a year. We've been at it for about a year and a half. We are a cybersecurity solution for industrial networks. The short version is we're applying some SDN principles to addressing the visibility
SDN,
problem.
define that.
Acronym hell.
Yeah.
Right, got to stay away from that. So we're applying software-defined networking principles.
Okay.
To some of the problems that we have within industrial networking, and industrial networking is what connects a lot of our critical infrastructure.
Special guests, and it's an honor to have the mayor of Colorado Springs, Mayor Suthers, John Suthers. Welcome today, and thanks for joining.
Hey, I'm glad to be with you. And as mayor of Colorado Springs, it's become very apparent to me that there's what I call kind of a triad of synergy in Colorado Springs that makes us ideal to be at the center of cybersecurity going forward.
Our guest today, Andy Merritt, is the Chief Defense Industry Officer for Colorado Springs Regional Business Alliance. Welcome today, Andy. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. The NCIC, the governor, is very aggressive on pushing timelines on this. They are talking about, for example, one of the things they're going to have, one of the 3 components is a cyber training institute to bring in elected leaders from around the country. They are looking at having their first class going into that of elected officials possibly as soon as late fall this year.
On with me, we have Holly Rollins, who is the principal for Booz Allen Hamilton in Denver. So Holly, welcome. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. Eastern Plains will benefit from this as well. I really think if this is done well and if it's scaled properly, this could be something that would really be a differentiator for the state of Colorado in terms of being a smart state. And I think it'd be terrific to have Colorado Springs as the hub for that.
You know, this is funny because I hear a representative of one of the biggest consulting companies in the world talking about focus on small business. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Well, yes. I believe that the economy of the engine of the economy of the United States is built on small and medium-sized businesses.
Today's guest, David Powell from Syber Maryland, the founder of the Syber Maryland efforts, and also a member of the Cyber Resilience Institute here in Colorado Springs.
We started Cyber Maryland about 6 years ago, and it was an initiative that originally started as a conversation. Maryland is a unique combination of government agencies, businesses, and so forth. We have some unique strengths that are located here, some federal agencies that are very focused on that particular mission, and surrounded by businesses that support those agencies, technology companies that support the agencies, and then a robust infrastructure that supports those groups. So there's a unique focus on cybersecurity that created some strength in that marketplace. Then if you add to that the educational institutions that create new cybersecurity professionals or retrain people to work in the field, there's a robust ecosystem in Maryland that is unique to the industry.
So welcome to our cybersecurity series. Here we have a guest today, Doug DePep. Doug is a law attorney that focuses on security and privacy. So I guess it's not law, but security and privacy attorney. Doug, welcome to the show today.
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Any last advice to, if anybody listening from the Colorado Springs effort, what they should do, recommendations for moving this forward?
And I'm actually writing on this, and it'll be more in the Colorado Springs Business Journal about the trust framework. So there's the convening piece that's so important, the transparency. The organizations themselves, not only probably do they have to be nonprofits, but they have to be egalitarian nonprofits that really are about the big picture. And I think that the legal piece is also very, very important because we have to identify the different facets of trust, and an organization that works for a client and only through ethical constraints can offer advice that's in their client's best interests, that's an important part of the trust as well. So there's a lot of different organizations that have a part in this, and getting them all to the table is the starting point.
Greg Cook, who is our guest today, is the CEO of Trappy, which we will also talk about, a really interesting new invention. So you think the danger with, say, this simple app like a mousetrap would be somebody turning it into something else to use it for another purpose?
Exactly. And hence why my friend calls it the Internet of Bots versus the Internet of Things. You're going to have all these processors out there, internet connected, with an interesting amount of power. And we're talking, billions of devices.
Yeah.
All turned into spam servers.
Today we have a guest. We have Cindy Thornburg, who is the president of the Information System Security Association, ISSA, the local chapter here in Colorado Springs. Welcome, Cindy. Thanks for joining today.
Thank you. we as an organization need to look at trying to figure out how to associate with the younger group. And I believe with the younger members, we're going to be able to do that. And that focus with our mentorship program is occurring right now.
Today's guest, Dr. Rick Denton, is the founder and CEO of Rocky Mountain Innovation Partners.
As a technologist, I've got to be optimistic and believe that we're not deep enough yet into big data processing to fully appreciate both what the limitations are and what the possibilities are for getting around those limitations. I think we're only at the beginning of that age.
We'll be right back with the rest of today's show right after these brief messages from our sponsors. Cyber Resilience Institute helps build strong cyber communities designed to prevent members from attack. Like building a neighborhood watch, it takes coordination and a sharing community to protect our identities and valuables in the virtual world. Typically, we hear that organizations know they need to do something to protect their cyber assets, but don't know where to begin. Let Cyber Resilience Institute help your community create an action plan. Cyber Resilience Institute will build your community or business marketplace so that it is designed to support a collective cyber defense. Contact them for more information at cyberresilienceinstitute.org.
I have a special guest on with me, Jay Lindell, who is the Aerospace and Defense Champion for the Office of Economic Development and International Trade for the state of Colorado. Welcome today, Jay.
Chris, glad to be here, and thanks for the invite. I always love to talk about Colorado and our economy and where we're going. First of all, cyber and cyberspace, cybersecurity lends itself to the aerospace environment because space is all about information. It's all about information sensing, information transfer, and all that data needs to get to the right person at the right time and secure data, meaning it's not going to the wrong people or it's not compromised, especially on defense-related information systems.
Sounds like we need trusted data.
Trusted data. And so it's a natural part when we say cyber to be a part of this aerospace environment, aerospace economy, especially right here in Colorado Springs, where we have such a heavy defense presence, a heavy space-based defense presence, and networks and systems that need to be secured.
Today I have a guest on with me, Bruce Parkman. He is the CEO of Main Nerve, which is headquartered right here in Colorado Springs. Bruce, welcome today. How you doing?
Hey, thanks a lot, Chris. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Kind of in closing here, if you could say, give some advice to direct what is needed in this newly budding effort. What advice would Bruce Parkman give?
In terms of building a cybersecurity nexus here in town? Oh, well, I mean, like I said, I would focus on at least being able to focus more on the commercial side because that's where revenue takes place. That's where growth takes place. Defense industries do not grow. They're relatively they're limited by budget. They really don't move without a lot of. They're very slow. So I would try to give the commercial cybersecurity companies or even technology companies, because it's all related, a reason to come here. Not just government jobs, not just security clearances. And I think we need to lighten up as a community. That meeting that we were at, I think, there were 2 people of color and maybe 4 women, whatever, a bunch of old white guys. Okay. And this needs to change. We need to, become more, representative of the cultures and we might not agree with this as older white guys, but it's a fact of life. This industry follows the workforce.
On with me today, I have a guest, Justin Searle, who is the managing partner at Utilsec, the chair of the board of UtahSec. There's a couple others here. He's an instructor and author for the SANS Institute, an instructor for Black Hat, and faculty at IONS, Consulting and Research Group. So,
groups like here in the United States, we have a lot of B-sides conferences that are out there that are really attracting younger audiences. If you look abroad, there's other types of conferences. So there's one I attend every year in India that's called NullCon. It's in Goa, India. If anybody's looking at a HackerCon that's kind of between DEF CON and Black Hat, it's kind of half professional but yet still very grassroots, and in a very tropical place on a beach. NullCon, dirt cheap to go and attend, fairly inexpensive to be able to stay there. And actually, from a technical perspective, from inside of cybersecurity, an amazing concert or conference to go to.
I have with me today Mike Simmons. He is the CEO of Imprimis and the chairman of the board of the Western Cyber Exchange.
Let's get organized. Let's get the thought leaders together. What do we need to do here? And very quickly that evolved into Western Cyber Exchange, because the first thought that came out of these meetings is cybersecurity or cyber threats are asymmetric. And you have to have intelligence and know what's coming at you to effectively counter an asymmetric threat.
So is WCX a threat intelligence sharing platform?
It is a cyber threat information sharing platform.
Okay.
That's what we are today. And that's how we got there. We realized this needs to happen. People need to have real-time awareness of what threats were coming at them. And that's where we call it the exchange.
Today we are here at the beautiful University of Colorado in Colorado Springs and have an honored guest on, the Vice Chancellor of UCCS, Colorado Springs, Martin Wood. And also Martin is one of the initial founding members of the Colorado NCIC effort, so the National Cyber Intelligence Center effort.
We were able to identify about 15 people in the community in Colorado Springs who were in all different walks of life of cybersecurity. We had military people, industry people, government people, educators. We had the state of Colorado represented, and we brought them all into the same room. And the question that I sort of convened the group so that I posed the question to them. I said, the question is, what all do we have here and what can we do with it, particularly as it relates to economic development? Can this be an economic development driver for Colorado Springs and our region? And that was the question that I posed. And that started a conversation that then led to the Regional Business Alliance, who was also at the table, going out and doing a cyber asset mapping exercise of Colorado Springs.
We have another great guest that I want to introduce you all to, Gib Sorbo. He is the Chief Cybersecurity Strategist for Leidos Corporation. He actually has published a book that we're going to reference quite a few times and have him talk about his experience, but it's titled Smart Grid Security, an end-to-end view of security in the new electrical grid. Gib, welcome today. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Sure. So Leidos is a $5 billion systems integrator. We do about 2/3 of our work with the federal government in a variety of ways, everything from providing intelligence analysts to in doing environmental remediation on oil spills or other things in a wide variety of areas for the federal government, as well as certain select commercial industries, in particular strengths in areas around healthcare, critical infrastructure, financial services, and others. And particularly in cybersecurity, we do a full life cycle of cybersecurity services.
We're going to talk to a different kind of guest than we have talked to recently, pulling in some of this post-millennial, millennial generation. We have Randy Ramos, who is he's a junior at Mercyhurst University, and Randy is majoring in intelligence and information technology, a cross between the two. But he is staffing the sports ISAO here in Colorado Springs for the summer as an intern, and we wanted to kind of get his input from somebody his age. But Randy, welcome today.
Thank you.
We are going to talk to Brian Spacies today. Thanks a lot for joining, Brian. How are you?
Good. How are you?
You know, we're talking about cybersecurity here with everything that we're doing with this podcast. And I know you're not a cyber guy. So this is a perfect segue to say, Brian, tell me, what is your definition of cybersecurity?
My cybersecurity is just keeping all of your own information safe, making sure that you don't have any unwanted visitors, just to keep it as simple as possible.
Today we have a guest who is the Chief Intelligence Officer at Treadstone 71, Jeff Barden. How you doing, Jeff?
Very good. How are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for joining. Now, Jeff at Treadstone, they provide consulting services for cyber intelligence, and he's going to tell us about that. But he told me he got his start infiltrating some jihadist type of organizations back in 2004. When I heard that, I was like, oh, okay, we're going to hear this from him instead of me trying to do any justice here. But Jeff, give us a background on yourself. Tell us what you do and what your company is about. You know, maybe not getting so technical at first, but just kind of an intro to what you do.
Sure. Let me rewind a little bit too on this to why I came to thinking I could even infiltrate a jihadist site starting in 2004. Where'd this come from? I've always seemed to have a knack for languages. In high school, Spanish was pretty easy, and actually completed 5 years of Spanish by the time I was a freshman in high school. And just seemed to have a knack for that. Didn't really focus on that as a possible career path or anything, but it came about that I took 3 years of Russian in college, Russian language, lit, history.
So welcome to today's episode of the New Cyber Frontier podcast. We have a special guest today, Pam Shockley, who is the Chancellor of University of Colorado at Colorado Springs. Welcome today, Pam, and thanks for joining our podcast.
Well, I'm pleased to be here.
How do you see the players and who's involved from the kind of the ground up phase of this? How do you see that developing?
The players are very diverse. Right now, many of the academic institutions in Colorado are going to be involved. We have 7 partners externally to the state of Colorado who are going to be involved on the academic side. That is workforce training. That is degree.
On with me, I have a guest, Jane Ginn, who is a fellow board member with me on the Cyber Resilience Institute Board of Directors. Jane, welcome today.
Well, thank you very much, Chris. So ISACs are industry specific.
Okay.
ISAOs can be established for a geographic area, for a topical area, those kinds of things.
Do they cross? And how do they cross?
Sometimes companies are members of both. So if, say, I'm a bank and I'm a member of what they call the financial services sector, ISAC or FSISAC, then I might also have many branches in the state of Maryland. So I might also join ISAL that's organized around the state of Maryland.
Okay.
And that way there is some correlation and cross-fertilization between the ISACs and the ISAPs.
On with me today, I have some very honored guests. I'm at beautiful University of Denver in Denver, Colorado, and I have the Chancellor of University of Denver, Chancellor Rebecca Chop. Welcome today, Rebecca.
Thank you. It's great to be here. So our university is getting more and more engaged in the big issues for Colorado, and cybersecurity, cyber defense is certainly a big issue. It's got to be a big issue for all of us. Every person should be well aware
of the challenges facing cybersecurity, facing us with cyber security, we should also be aware, and of special interest to me, is that it's a huge field for jobs. So 12,000 jobs now open in the state of Colorado alone. And of course, we pledge to help the state address all its issues and its opportunities. We also make another promise, which is we want our students to have jobs.
And also, I have with me another guest that's the Dean of the Ritchie School of Computer Engineering, J.B. Holston.
Good to be here, and it's the Ritchie School of Computer Science and Engineering. Right, the internet is as fundamental a resource and as much a part of our fundamental environment as water was back in the 60s. So if we position this more as, well, just as we decided we needed to keep the environment safe in the 60s, so we need to keep the fundamental environment that we live in, which is the internet, safe today. And so positioning it a little bit more as sort of investing in that fundamental resource and keeping it safe for the long haul is less a position of fear than a position of, sort of naturally I would care about trying to ensure that that's all good and kosher and clean and safe for the long haul.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of New Cyber Frontier. Remember to get involved. Often we think that someone else will handle privacy and security in the virtual world, but you are the only one truly in command of your virtual fate. Join our mailing list so we can keep you informed of breaking news and new releases. If you have an idea, if you have a question that you would like to hear answered, or if you want to get involved with our efforts, reach out to us at newcyberfrontier.com. We also encourage you to visit our sponsors' links, as they are the ones that really make this show possible. I want to thank each of you for supporting the show, and we look forward to seeing you back for the next episode of New Cyber Frontier.